Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, October 20th, and I've got a little breaking news and an interview here for you on Cool FM Live at 5. Here we are inside the studio. Last week on Cool FM Live, I had the privilege of speaking with our Cochise County Sheriff Mark Daniels and our Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco regarding three different issues: the breaking news of the fire at the county jail in Bisbee, the upcoming special election on the jail district tax, and something that we'll specifically discuss today, which is the NIJO report. What is the NIJO report? The National Institute for Jail Operations, or NIJO, is an organization that provides services and resources to administrators of jails and correctional facilities. These reports are often the result of an independent inspection or an audit of a facility. And after a year-long legal fight, the redacted form of the NIJO report about the Cochise County Jail was released to the public last week. Again, that was one of the 3 points that we discussed with Sheriff Mark Daniels and Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco. And some legal experts and local journalists have brought forward some questions regarding this report, and we're very happy to have one of them joining us right now via Zoom. Sandy Russell is a civil litigation expert who has been practicing law for 24 years. And Sandy, just want to say welcome and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. So, Sandy, as we start this interview, I literally have breaking news. This information was just released in the last hour. And today, according to the information that I received, today at 5 p.m., that being today, Monday, October 20th, depending on when people are watching this, the sheriff and county attorney have released a revised version of the redacted NIJO report, which now includes the recommendations in it. And I don't want to ask questions specifically about that because we may not have the appropriate time to read it and go over it as we're doing this interview live here. But let's talk about the report itself. You've had questions regarding the NIJO report seemingly all along, and you were one of the individuals who requested its release to the public. Why was that important to you, and why do you feel it should be important to the residents of Cochise County?
Well, it was important to me because it was coming up on the ballot as an issue that we are going to vote on. It's also important to me because I'm an attorney in the area. The legal community is important to me. The jail is important to me. I've represented people that have been in the jail. I care about the jail, and I want to make that very clear. I care about the inmates and the employees that work in this jail. It is not that I do not care, and I do believe that the inmates deserve to have a safe, healthy, clean environment where they're serving their time. And I believe the employees deserve to have a safe, healthy environment where they're going to work. It's not about that, right? I wanted to be informed. I wanted to know, what am I voting for? Because that's how I roll with everything that I vote on. I want to know as much information as I can to make an informed vote. And when I started looking into the matter, I reached out to Board of Supervisors directly, and I was told to go to the jail district website, and that all the documents that support the reasons for them needing a new jail were on the website of the jail district website. So I started going to the website, started looking through documents, and it became apparent to me that there were no documents. There was nothing that said, signed by a building inspector or a licensed engineer or anybody qualified in the area of building structures, that said that this building could not be repaired or renovated or modified, that it was beyond repair. Nothing to that effect. And there was no recommendation by somebody qualified as such to say we had to build a new jail. And so I started asking more questions, and I kept getting pointed to reports that didn't provide the information that they claimed it did. And so then I had more questions. I'm like, why do they not want me to know? And then I kept seeing references to this NIJO report, but the NIJO report didn't exist anywhere. And I also had communicated with a few other members in the community, and they had been aware of the NIJO report. And it seems to me that this is a report that we should know about. And so I requested it, and I was hit with obstructionism. I'm an attorney of 23 years. I know what the attorney-client privilege is. I know what the attorney work product doctrine is. I work with it a lot. I go up against big insurance companies who try to assert those privileges to me all the time. I've litigated these issues countless times, and I have succeeded in most of them. The best interest defense as well. So these are the three defenses that they hurled at me in response to my request. And one of the things in the public records disclosure law is if you specifically ask them to give you reasons for why they're not producing the report, they're supposed to do that, and they're supposed to be specific. And they didn't do that. They just gave me these blanket privileges, and I came back and said, no, you're going to give me your reasons. And they didn't. They continued to just assert these blanket privileges, and it made me mad. So I was considering suing them myself, but then they sued David Morgan, and so I didn't have to. And so I kind of chose to just sit back and see what happened with that. And here we are now. I made this request, and they still haven't produced. I'm just learning about this new redacted version through you.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned about it just within the last hour as well.
Yeah, they didn't produce it to me, and I'm the one who requested it. So, and I suspect the new redacted version was released in response to my email after they produced the last redacted version, where I said,
week, the one from last week. Okay.
Exactly. Where I responded to them and said, this isn't going to fly. You're not going to give me, because all they did was dress up their blanket redactions a little bit, that instead of just giving me an email saying these are the reasons, they edited the document with the reasons over a black space and put their reason for that, just a blanket reason. And they didn't give specificity. And they have to, first of all, and I'll get into that in a minute, this report is not prepared by an attorney. That's clear. Attorney-client privilege applies to documents and communications between an attorney and a client. So that knocks attorney-client privilege out right there. I mean, that isn't even a privilege they can assert. Attorney work product doctrine is also a privilege that is specific to documents prepared by an attorney in anticipation of specific litigation. Also doesn't apply here. So we're really only talking about the best interest defense. And I have made that clear to them numerous times, but they still continue to assert these privileges that they have no legal claim to bring. And the best interest defense is a very high burden. I watched your video, your interview with them, and that Paul Correa guy started talking about the Hodai case, which is the case I provided to them. That case is clear. It provides a very high bar to withhold public records. Once a document is deemed a public record, the burden is then on the public entity to show that they have to show with specificity how disclosure will cause harm. And they can't just say, oh, it'll cause harm. They have to be specific about each little thing they're not going to produce and why not producing that thing is going to cause them harm. Do you see that in their redacted version? Did they do it in their second revised? I don't know. But the one they provided to me, they didn't comply with any of that. So all of these things have caused me to have questions. What are they hiding? Why are they hiding it? And what are they trying to pull over on me? So that's why it's important to me, because their assertion of these privileges are wrong. They're not supported by the law. And then when I got the redacted version, and then they've redacted out, they clearly on the first page, they've redacted out names of people who participated in this inspection. How is that? How is that a best interest defense? They redacted out the recommendations. How is that a best interest defense? It's very concerning. And then, and also disinformation is something I'm very passionate about. We have a lot of disinformation going around this country, and Facebook, unfortunately, which I've taken a hiatus from, is just full of information that is not true. It's just.
Can I officially welcome you back to Facebook, since we're live on Facebook right now?
You may for like a minute, but I might be off it again. But I'm just really concerned about disinformation. And then when I see Zuko and Daniels going out and peddling this information, saying, oh, we have this attorney-client privilege and this is a risk assessment document and we don't have to. It's not a risk assessment document, because if it was a risk assessment document, it would have had recommendations, and it would have cited to some law, and it would have cited to some rules, and those things would not have been redactable. They can redact, specific facts that might be sensitive, or things that might be sensitive and cause them harm, like I don't know, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but like in one of these cases in Hodai, they were trying to get like a phone surveillance system, and they were trying to find out how it worked. And the court said, we can't really let you figure out or know how this works, because if you know how this works, then the adversaries will be able to have countermeasures to, which I think is ludicrous, but whatever. They'll have countermeasures, and then the surveillance won't work, right? So, there are circumstances when things are need to be kept confidential to protect, the investigations, or to protect, the public, or the inmates maybe, or whatever, from harm. And I'm not saying that there might not be information in there, because I don't know what's in there. I don't know what it says. But I don't believe that it is what they have made it out to be.
Well, that was going to be my next question, was going to be regarding this. I mean, one of the reasons a NIJO report may be released is specifically mentioned on the NIJO website, which does say, quote, "In some cases, reports are released to inform the public about the state of a jail, especially when a public vote or funding decision is involved." And then it goes on to say, "though this may involve legal redactions to protect sensitive security information." Of course, as you know that the NIJO report on the Cochise County Jail, it was released last week with those redactions, and Sheriff Daniels explicitly stated the reasons for the redactions are for protecting the safety of his deputies as well as the inmates. And so your response to this, and the information you feel that might be being kept from the public, what might that be?
Well, let me start out with, first off, given the redactions that they made, and the reasons for the redactions, the only redaction that I'm even given any credence to whatsoever is a best interest defense redaction. So anything other than that is complete bull hockey. Attorney-client privilege, attorney work product, and you're going to see they've redacted a lot of stuff in there that they claim is attorney-client privilege and attorney work product. None of that applies, period. And so the dishonesty that has been demonstrated makes me distrust all of the redactions. I don't trust any of it. And I don't really care what NIJO says. NIJO is not an authority. They're not an authority on anything. Nothing they say on their website is binding precedent on any court. I don't even care what they say, but I am interested in one thing that they say on their website. On their website, they say that they help agencies with justification of requests for additional funding.
Right, that's what I just said. I mean, it was about to inform the public when a public vote or funding decision is involved. That's clear from their website.
And to me, that smells bias. That smells not independent report. This is not an independent report. And, you don't go, first of all, you don't go on a risk assessment of a building. You don't go to some standard organization on standards to get your risk assessment. You go to a building engineer. You go to somebody who builds prisons, and you say, could you take a look at our prison and tell us if our building can be repaired or modified or updated, and what will the cost be? And can we compare that cost to what it would be to build an entirely new jail? That's what should have happened here. And that is what I am really puzzled about. You don't go to some organization that helps jails get funding, which is clearly biased, and pay them $4,000. It was like under $10,000. It was a ridiculously low amount of money. And you get what you pay for, right? Because what little bit I could read of this opinion looked like a very low-level opinion. It did not look professional. It did not look like a very well-prepared risk assessment. A well-prepared risk assessment, like I said, it would have a table of authorities at the end. It would, have footnotes, and it would have list, laws and building codes, and it would be very thorough. This report is not. I mean, I don't even need to read the report. It's 26 pages long, but just based on the little bit that I have been able to glean, this is not something I would hang my hat on to go to the voters and say, give me $130 million at a time when we are all struggling to make ends meet. Everything's costing us more. Groceries, gas, everything. And then we're about to get hit with tariffs that are going to be, hitting us and causing everything to be more expensive. And now we're going to have to pay a jail tax on top of it. And it adds up. It's thousands of dollars a year that we are going to have to pay everything we buy, every single thing we buy. This tax is going to apply to. So if you think it's insignificant, it's not. It is going to impact all of us. And we're asked to do, less. We're asked to do more with less, but the county doesn't want to do more with less.
Well, let's talk specifically about the vote. I mean, the jail district tax is up for vote to the Cochise County residents on November 4th. Most residents have received their ballots in the mail. I've received mine in the mail. And so your current opinion on this ballot measure, what is it? And why do you feel that there's a constitutional violation in even bringing this vote to the public?
Well, because the Arizona Constitution has two ways that a ballot measure can be put on the ballot. One, the legislature can do it, okay? And when the legislature does it, they have to go and they got to go get majority votes of all of their congressmen and senators, and they got to pass both houses in order to put it on the ballot. And us, the citizens, if we want to put it on the ballot by petition or referendum, we got to go out and get like 10% or, don't hold me to the quote, I can't remember the exact percentage, but we got to go out and collect signatures before we can put something on the ballot, okay? And the Board of Supervisors, through this jail district statute, which was passed by Congress, which I don't even know how it's constitutional. I mean, this is the way statutes work, right? It's constitutional until someone challenges it, and no one's challenged it as of yet. But, the jail district statute says that the board can put something on the ballot, but it's a little unclear when you read the statute. To me, I think that they're also required to go get 10% signatures, or at least have a strong showing of public interest. But they didn't do any of that. They didn't get signatures. They did none of that. They just, by resolution of the board, with 3 people, voted to put this on the ballot.
Well, they did that on the last board and then again on this board, from
and
what I understand.
To me, that's an equal protection clause violation to me. Why did the Board of Supervisors, and this isn't provided in the Constitution, this was created by the legislature in the statute. It's contrary to the process provided in our Constitution. Why do they get to just say, I mean, if you think about it, they could literally pass a statute. The legislature could pass a statute on anything and say the board could do this on anything, put anything on the ballot. And just by 3 people voting, it gets put on the ballot. That is insane. It can't be constitutional. There's no way. It's not fair. It's not equal protection. I mean, if I can't put it on the ballot with 3 votes or 3 signatures, and the legislature can't put it on the ballot with 3 signatures, surely the Board of Supervisors cannot either.
I know that I would like to think that this would have been brought to the attention, because I know that other counties in Arizona have had these jail district taxes before. I'd like to think that there were other attorneys out there who maybe have questioned it, and I don't know what research has been done as far as when those jail district taxes in the other counties across our state have brought that forward. What arguments or maybe pushback might there have been on a constitutional side of things?
Well, I think it's like everything else, Jeff. Most of the public doesn't know how to do anything about this. Litigation is expensive. It's incredibly complicated. Most people don't even know where to begin to challenge statutes. I don't know why. I can't answer the question as to why specifically it hasn't been attacked yet. I do know that locally here, somebody tried to attack it recently, and then dismissed the case for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I suspect it had something to do with the rumors going around that the county hired this like super lawyer, and they were going to come after him for attorney's fees, and I don't know. But people get scared.
Those are rumors, I mean.
Right, yeah, I don't know. But people don't have the resources always to fight these things, the constitutionality of things. And then we have another wrinkle in the matter, because Proposition 132 was passed in 2023, I think, or 2022-ish, around there. And that added a provision to our Constitution that says any tax ballot measure has to be passed with a 60% supermajority, and applies to any tax measure. And they have been going around to these meetings telling people, oh, we just need a majority. That we don't need 60%. We don't have to comply with that. And it's very important for people to understand that the jail district statute was written in 1985, and the Prop 132 was passed a couple years ago. And the Constitution always trumps statute, always. It is the supreme law of the land. There are no cases that have interpreted this specific situation. The LaChance case last year, or in 2023, there was a decision that was written, in my opinion, very badly. And I think the Court of Appeals agreed because they depublished it. So that opinion is worthless at this point. And there's a case in Phoenix currently going on that. It's by the Goldwater Institute. And it's Stamper something. I can't remember the name of the case. But that case is going forward, and hopefully we'll see a resolution, at least on that particular end of things, on the 60% majority. And I believe that's a city tax that was trying to be passed. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this. A lot of things that maybe the public doesn't understand or even care to know. But
well, and the new moving part. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but again, the new moving part is this revised version of the redacted NIJO report, which, if you're just joining us, it's Jeff Davenport live at 5 with Sandy Russell, talking here about the NIJO report that we interviewed Sheriff Mark Daniels and Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco on last week. And literally within the last hour of us being live, this newly revised version of the redacted NIJO report is supposed to include recommendations for the facility. Now, Sandy, if this report specifically recommends that a new jail facility should be constructed, would that change your opinion on how Cochise County residents should vote on November 4th, and why?
I would say unless the new revised report contains a author that has an engineer's stamp on it, and that's your first key, right? It should have an engineer's stamp somewhere on it. And I've done, I just recently worked on a federal key tam lawsuit on a water sanitation plant facility in New York City that was over a $200 million project. So I have some experience on some of these construction projects and litigation involving them. And when an engineer gives you an opinion, there's an engineer stamp that goes with that. So unless this new report has an engineer stamp on it, my opinion is still the same, because there is nothing, these people are not qualified. They are not qualified to say whether or not this building is structurally sound and whether or not it can be renovated or repaired, period. They would not be permitted to testify in court. They are not experts on building. They don't hold, as far as I can tell, they have no license. They have no contractor license, no building license. There's nothing there. So, I don't know because I haven't seen it, but I would say it would not change my opinion.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see exactly what the specifics are in this newly revised redacted version that, again, the county attorney's office and the Cochise County Sheriff's Office has released to the public to give a little bit more information. And as you go through it, if there's anything that you'd like to bring up, I hope we get a chance to talk to you again in the future about it.
Well,
Sandy.
I do. I would love to talk to you again because I'd like to look at the report and talk to you again about what I learned from it. But one other thing I want to drive home is that, a very, very important part of this puzzle is that 2/3 of the jail population in Cochise County is mentally ill patients. 2/3. And when I was a prosecutor there, I was mortified by how many people we were putting in jail that didn't belong there. And this is something that needs to be addressed, but they do not belong in jail. And if 2/3 of the population doesn't belong there, that is part of a solution right there. We don't need to have so many people in that jail. And then if we can, what other solutions can we have? What other alternatives can we have? Is it possible to renovate the current jail to keep just minimal security people and then build maybe a smaller facility? I mean, we don't have that many violent criminal offenders in Cochise County. They're only having, last I checked, there were 4 trials. I don't remember whether it was last year or the year before. 4 trials in the whole county. So there aren't that many people that are in the Cochise County Jail waiting for trial. The ones that are there are, either there for a short sentence because, our hardcore felons do not serve time in Cochise County Jail. They go to a state prison, okay? So we could build a smaller facility that if they need security or more secure, facility for these hardcore felons or whatever, you could build a smaller facility that might not cost as much money as what they're trying to build, and then have the other one for, less, or maybe just even, the people who are mentally ill, who knows? I'm just saying they should be able to tell us they've ruled out alternative solutions. And they can't do that. They haven't done that. And so with that, I feel like I've said all I need to say.
Okay. Well, I mean, we appreciate your opinions on this. As someone who's been practicing law, a civil litigation expert for 24 years, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, Sandy. And I certainly hope you feel that the other side of this story has been represented. And we're really grateful for you taking the time to talk to us today, Sandy. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful to you, Jeff. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, you have a wonderful day. And again, thank you guys for joining us for this special interview with Sandy Russell about the NIJO report. And again, there is a newly released, revised version of the redacted NIJO report that is available right now. If you're just joining us, I'd encourage you to rewind and get some more information about the breaking news that we've literally just released here during this live video. Jeff Davenport Live at 5, brought to you by Cool FM Live, the place for news, sports, information, so much more. Hanging out with you here today. Thank you so much for watching. And again, thank you for sharing. This is all important information as the November 4th deadline for our voting comes to take place, and we want to provide as much information as we can to the voting public about these sides so we can all make an informed decision. That's what it's all about, is making an informed decision on these topics, particularly when it comes to the jail district tax that we talked about with Sheriff Mark Daniels and Cochise County Attorney Lori Zucco last week. And if they have some other news that they'd like to share with us, we look forward to talking to them as well, as Sandy Russell or someone else hopefully in the near future. But thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Stay tuned. Doggo Lotto is coming up in about half an hour, so be watching that. The greatest dog-related game show in the history of the metaverse. It's coming up in about half an hour. Stay tuned for that, everybody, and keep it locked right here on Cool FM Live for the latest news, information, sports, updates, and everything else going on across Cochise County, Southern Arizona, and the world. All right here on your favorite Facebook page, Cool FM Live. Jeff Davenport signing off from the Cool FM Live studios. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you soon.